Okay, so this is the beginning of the world history. So this is 8.1. This unit is basically a preview for, or this video is definitely a preview for the unit. All of Unit 8 is talking about the scientific revolution, the Enlightenment, and the Industrial Revolution. Now, these three major events are things that happen in the world that really just change the world immensely. They are definitely some of the most important things that happen in our world's history. So towards the end of the video, I'll tell you why that is. But first, we'll start with what you should know outside of what you should read for 8.1. But this will help you when you're taking a quiz. So first, I'm going to show you guys something that is, you guys are going to have access to this. I'll send you guys a link. I'll have it linked with this video. The link to this video will be at the end of this video, so you can click on it and find it. So basically, the way that these things are set up is, now this one is not including the Enlightenment, but the scientific revolution caused people to create more inventions, and these inventions made it able, with resources, a lot of resources that were available, made the Industrial Revolution possible to happen. So they kind of, this one basically caused this one to happen, okay? So let's kind of start going into the beginnings of the scientific revolution. So basically, the scientific revolution is a new way of thinking about things, new way of processing, questioning. A lot of the questions that people had were questions that their religions were not really able to answer. They used to go to their religious leaders and ask questions, and they would have their religious answers, and there were some answers that they couldn't really get answered by them. So they started thinking, well, is this really true? How do I know if it's really true? And now the church, especially the Catholic Church, did not like these scientists coming up with new plans, new ideas, new answers for questions, especially when they had to do with going against something that religion taught. For example, Copernicus, he was the first guy to say that the Earth revolved around the sun. This is the heliocentric theory. He was the first guy to really say that. When he told his answer, people didn't like it. The church didn't like it, of course. Later on, we have another important scientist, Galileo. He published his findings. He actually used a telescope, so he had better technology than Copernicus did, and he was able to basically have more evidence behind his theory. At the time, it was a theory of the sun being at the center. Galileo was being very risky in producing his findings, because there was actually someone before Galileo who was hung for teaching the heliocentric theory. So the church was very upset at these guys having these answers and coming up with these scientific answers to the questions that people had, and going against what their religions taught. Their scriptures would actually say that the Earth was immovable and the sun moved across the sky. So they took it as, well, obviously the Earth's at the center and the sun moves around. So that's just the way that they interpret it. And Galileo was like, no, I interpret it differently. I think the Earth is immovable in that it's not going to move from its rotation, but it itself is still revolving. So basically, these churches basically punish scientists for promoting these different ideas that they had. Religion was so intertwined with government, so intertwined that basically the king was given his power by the god of their religion. So the king usually said, you have to follow this religion, this is what you have to believe. So that's just the way that things used to work. A lot of the higher education institutions were ran by churches, or were involved, or churches were involved in it. But there were some independent universities that had nothing to do with religion. So a lot of these scientists went to these independent universities because they knew that they would be able to actually really investigate the answers without interference from religion. I'm going to show you guys one other thing on here. So this talks a little bit about these three main events that's going to be about chapter 8 or unit 8. So the scientific revolutions, one we've been talking about, is where people were questioning the answers that religions had given them. This is the most important line, is new way of thinking about the world. So they thought, they had to come up with new ways to think about it, new answers, new methods. Hint, hint, to something we're going to talk about. And so this new thinking led to new inventions. So the ingenuity of it, being able to, let your mind just go and wander and think creatively. So a result of the scientific revolution is, and this is a big deal here, people are taking a lot more logical approach to science and really looking at observation and experimentation. For example, the reason why we have something that you guys see in science class right now, the scientific method, done by Francis Bacon. He was the one who came up with the scientific method. So you have these 5 basic steps of the scientific method right here: observations, research, hypothesis, experiment, and conclusions. So some of the most important ones, observations and experiment, are the ones that came through the scientific revolution. That's what a lot of scientists, they had to do this. In fact, Descartes, one of the thinkers during the revolution, he was the first one to really say, we need to have a process to going about and trying to find answers to these questions. We need to observe, we need to experiment, we have a clear process. And so he's the one who kind of started into a legit process, and then Francis Bacon kind of established this process. So this comes about in the scientific revolution that we have here. And again, just remember, experimentation and observation are the key things. That there's probably like several questions that you could have in your quiz that talk about scientific revolution is about observation and experimentation. Okay. Most of Europe, they had the scientific revolution first with the Enlightenment, and then they had the Industrial Revolution later, where they started making more things. That's what the Industrial Revolution was about. I'll show you back here at this page that you guys will have linked to. They were able to make more products cheaper and quicker. So this Industrial Revolution was great. A lot of countries in Europe had these two first, and then the Industrial Revolution. All besides England or Great Britain. They went straight into, they didn't really have a lot of the people who were big deal at the time, the scientific revolution thinkers. They weren't really in Great Britain at the time. There was an Enlightenment thinker who was there, but they just went straight into the Industrial Revolution, and they were actually, that's the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, was in Europe. They basically in Great Britain. They took all of the ideas from the scientific revolution from other countries, and they're like, hey, let's build stuff with all this. So anyways, that is 8.1.